Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video where we're going to be covering the recently announced Jurassic World Evolution 3, and it looks like it's going to be possibly the best in the series. I've played both previous games as you've seen on the channel, well at least the second one on the channel. First one I played when it first came out, but the third one is really shaping up to be possibly the ultimate Jurassic World Evolution, and fingers crossed we will not require a fourth one to finish off the features, as I think many of the major features that I suggested in the speculation videos all the way back last year, probably this time last year actually, have actually come true. Not necessarily in terms of new species, as we don't look to have all too many, so they're probably likely saving most of the new species for later DLCs, but we do have a couple of new species to talk about here. But I thought I'd put up this really nice key art that was done up for the website for Jurassic World Evolution 3, where you can see our big old T-Rex with one of its new patterns, or at least maybe it's an old pattern and just different color. But we also have two of the most exciting addition this time round, babies and breeding. As you can also see, a big pile of eggs down the front there. We also have a massive flare lighting up the background with some Jurassic Park 3 specifically pteranodons flying in the sky. On the left with some cherry blossoms in the mountains of Japan, which is one of the new maps that we'll be able to access in this game. As well as on the right, a facility which will likely be part of the campaign, where you can see a helicopter flying above, as well as a pteranodon perched on the roof. So yeah, this one goes hard. The second one was sort of somewhat light-hearted in a way, and the first one, well, that was fairly stormy in its appearance, but this one is a great mix of both. So without further ado, let's get into the Dreadnoughtus-sized amount of information we have to talk about. So first of all, bring prehistory into the modern era with bioengineered and naturally bred dinosaurs that think, feel and react to the environment you can create for them. Welcome 82 awe-inspiring prehistoric species with new species, community favourites and icons from the Jurassic World franchise, including Velociraptor, Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Indominus Rex. So Indominus Rex is returning here as you nurture incredible animals across the land, lagoons and skies of your park. So another bit of information here is that out of the over 80 species, as I feel like there's more than 82, the over 80 species that we're going to be getting at launch, only 70 or so will be able to breed. And I feel like a few of those would be the hybrids. So if we get all, I think it's 7 hybrids back for Evolution 3, so Indominus, Indoraptor, Scorpius, Spinoraptor, Spinoceratops, Stegoceratops and Ankylodocus, I don't believe those species will be able to breed, as they are hybrids, so I don't think they can naturally breed, although Scorpius Rex, I don't know, possibly could breed. But so I've seen other creators suggest possibly some of the smallest dinosaurs probably won't be able to breed, something like Sinosauropteryx, Compsognathus. Those size dinosaurs probably won't be able to breed, as the babies will be so tiny you probably wouldn't really be able to appreciate them, unlike many of the others. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Park guests will marvel as these majestic creatures socialize and react to the vibrant world around them, displaying new social interactions and behaviors as pterosaurs learn to walk, or land to walk. So that is a feature we were asking for ages. So I'm really excited to see particularly the Quetzalcoatlus walk about on the ground, as well as semi-aquatic dinosaurs heading into the water to feed. So with Rebirth coming out, we're likely going to be getting our swimming Spinos. And parents nurture their young after emerging from the nest. So that is really cool. And we have our screenshot of our Triceratopses here. So on the left we have our male Triceratops, characterized by the much more prominent frill, as well as wider splayed horns, a larger nose horn, and larger size in general, and also a much bolder pattern. We see our female in the back with the much smaller frill, and basically the Jurassic World Triceratops we've come to know and love. And on the right you can see our adorable little baby Triceratops, sporting a blend of the baby Jurassic Park and Jurassic World Triceratopses. So an idea that's been floating around is that the babies will be sort of default for between different variants. So if you have Jurassic Park Triceratops and Jurassic World Triceratops, the babies will probably look the same, but then I don't know how they're going to morph into adults, probably similar to Planet Zoo, as they will just reach a certain age and then poof, they're an adult. That is a good possibility given the number of animals that are here, and a feature that I did suggest in the breeding speculation video for Jurassic World Evolution 3 that I did a few months ago. We can also create jaw-dropping parks with new creative tools never before seen in the Jurassic World Evolution series, from groundbreaking terrain editing to modular scenery customization. So very similar to the Planet Zoo, Planet Zoo and the Planet Coaster games. So I don't think it's quite as intricate as the Planet Zoo one, as there is a little animation that you can find on the website that sort of shows how it works, and looks like you basically create a shell around a default building. So that looks like to be what's going to be going on there. And you can build and tweak every aspect of your park from the ground up. Build your sites with naturalistic enclosures using steep slopes and scenery. Introduce stunning new attractions such as the balloon tour, which is likely going to be inspired by Operation Genesis, and I know a lot of people have been wanting that one. And a close-up attraction that lets guests see and touch prehistoric animals with the dinosaur encounter, as well as more. So that dinosaur encounter has been said a few different ways. It's been said the Gentle Giants encounter, which of course refers to the Gentle Giants petting zoo that was present in Jurassic World. But with the and more, I can only imagine Cretaceous Cruise or the riverboat ride has got to be one of them. I really hope so, possibly even a gondola ride. A gondola would be really cool. And you can also, this is probably another one of the big features that somewhat warrants the sequel's existence, create, upload and share cross-platform community creations using the Frontier Workshop. Browse the very best creations from the community, place them in your own game, or craft your own custom parks, buildings and enclosures before sharing for other players to use. So basically, if you're on PC, you can actually interact with buildings and creations that have been made by console players, and vice versa. I will talk a little bit about how I feel on the sequel. So Jurassic World Evolution 3, of course, I'm all on board with for various different reasons. One of which is the addition of modular building. That is a very different way of constructing parks to the previous two games. So previous two games you had basically prefabs. So buildings that were already designed the way they were, and you couldn't really change them except for a few minor tweaks. Here you have complete control over how your buildings can look, as you have modular pieces that you'll be able to place around within a certain degree, because I don't know how many modular pieces you're going to have, but I feel like it's going to be a good few to allow for a diverse range of buildings to be created from them. So we also have the breeding, which is another major feature, which, considering the number of species that they're going to be applying this feature to, really doesn't seem like something that could have just been bowled over in an update. Like, you're talking about close to 80 species that are getting the breeding mechanic. That is not something that Frontier could have squeezed into the 3-month window that they left, that they were working with for Jurassic World Evolution 2. And you've also got the advanced environmental tools, as even though it seems simple on the surface to add, it really isn't. It is a very complex system with all these different moving parts that you have to consider when actually constructing the whole system from the ground up. And what we're going to see later in the video is fairly intense and very different from what we were using in the previous game, as you have new water and new ways that the environment interacts with itself, really with how water works. where you can place it on a cliff and you can create a waterfall if there's water below it. I don't know what the constraints are on that. You also can create canyons which automatically generate rocks, and I imagine you would be able to remove those rocks and place forest over it instead, depending on the steepness of the slope, I'm assuming, because considering the buildings that are on the plateau in the middle of this park here have rocks around them, and judging by the steepness of the slope, I would not say a forest would be built on that, as trees need to be somewhat stable, although I've seen trees grow in some very surprising places, so you could argue, but yeah, I don't know if you'd really be able to put forest over that, and I think it's kind of a good thing, as you can have these formations that stand out from the rest of the landscape. But looking at the picture itself, you can see a lot of Japanese inspired architecture, so we're getting a whole Japanese theme, which I know a few, I think it was Evolution Square, she was building a very well done Japanese inspired park, and now everyone's going to be able to do it, like not just PC players that got the mod, but console players will have access to these pieces. So you've got a Japanese inspired innovation center, which looks really cool. Like, you can tell it's an innovation center just by how it's structured. You also have different archways, flags, bridges. Yeah, they're bridges. I think it's, was it Zen Gardens? I want to say. I'm not all too familiar with different aspects of Japanese culture, so forgive me if I don't recognize some very clear references. You also see cherry blossoms, which some of them look like they've been brought over from Planet Zoo, and we also have bamboo, which is a foliage piece that I was really hoping we were going to get, and thank goodness we are, because yeah, those are going to look really nice in some Asian dinosaur exhibits. It's going to look really cool. We also see the return of the monorail, as we also did in the trailer. So great to see the monorail back as one of our primary attractions. And you also have the beautiful landscape of the Japanese mountains. And you also have some Japanese maple, which I can pick out over there. We also have some returning paleoflora. So some of these tree ferns that you could get in Evolution 2. But yeah, it looks like a very diverse landscape with all these different deciduous trees and coniferous trees as well. So you're going to be able to create some very diverse looking parks. So we're going to talk a little bit about the campaign. So in the campaign, work with the experts at the Dinosaur Integration Network to build and rebuild parks across the globe, unlocking new locations, dinosaurs, and more as you complete diverse non-linear scenarios. As park manager, you must balance the often conflicting needs of the different factions at play in dinosaur conservation. Your choices will shape your campaign as you favour the security, entertainment and conservation sectors. They will reward you with technology, but beware, not everyone will see eye to eye with your mission. So this campaign sounds a lot like the Evolution 1 campaign, more so than the Evolution 2, which was somewhat more of a tutorial than anything else. So you're going to be able to go around the world and salvage parks, which is a pretty good idea for creating a long but also interesting scenario. I saw in like other parts on the website that it would follow the events of Jurassic World Evolution 2 and Jurassic World Dominion. So you're following the aftermath of both the movie but also the campaign that was in Evolution 2. So potentially you're going to figure out what the hell Dr. Doolittle was doing. So fingers crossed for that. But that campaign sounds really interesting. So in Sandbox, craft your Evolution 3 experience and choose how you let your creativity roar. Whether you create without limits or set your own difficulties to overcome expansive customization settings and options give you the freedom to experiment. Choose from a selection of locations featured across the campaign and previous Jurassic World Evolution titles. So hopefully that includes the 5 deaths from the first game, as well as Bison Valley and several other maps that we've seen previously. And finally, in challenge mode, race against the clock to build parks across stunning locations featured in the Jurassic World Evolution 3 campaign. Compete to set the best completion times and beat the par time, as you battle against a series of scenarios which scale in challenge with your difficulty choices. Successfully proving your prowess by completing a scenario will reward you with unique dinosaur skins and scenery for use in any game mode. So that's interesting. So it's very similar to what you would get from the challenge mode in Evolution 1 and I guess Evolution 2, although that was more unlocking just whole skin types and patterns for the dinosaurs. If these are unique skins, maybe some of them are film skins, perhaps. So maybe a 2018 Carnotaurus, perhaps Prologue Giganotosaurus. That would be nice. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But we also have an image here showcasing our beautiful Brachiosaurus with its adorable little baby. The one on the far right almost reminds me of Firecracker from Camp Cretaceous, at least the colours. But yeah, they're little heckin' chonkers. But perhaps the most important feature that you can see here is deep water. So water will be able to have its depth change, which is game changing, literally, because now you'll be able to have dinosaurs actively swimming. So hopefully we will be able to see Spinosaurus, Suchomimus, maybe the Pyroraptor as well, actively swimming in later species field guides, if that's what they're going to do like they did last time, or just general dev diaries and gameplay showcases. But you can see our Brachiosaurus are over knee deep in this water, so it's fairly deep, so you're going to be able to recreate a lot of good scenes, and particularly one that I'm imagining right now is the Dreadnoughtus flyby in Jurassic World Dominion. So that Dreadnoughtus, I imagine, was standing in the water, so you'll be able to recreate that, and I guess they're shot in the prologue as well. But yeah, that's really cool. You can also see an aviary up on a plateau overlooking this Brachiosaurus exhibit. Just before we move on, I'll also note that you've got aquatic plants that you can add to the exhibits now. So sort of wetland stuff, so duckweed, lilies, reeds, so that's all really good stuff. You've also got the buffalo grass from Planet Zoo I can recognise there, so that's pretty cool. There's also little pebbles scattered across the floor. But that aviary, I don't know whether you'll be actually able to change the size of the aviary or the height. It'd be really amazing if you could, because Quetzalcoatlus, with the size of it, I feel like it should be able to fly a lot higher than it currently does. So fingers crossed for that. But yeah, really cool stuff for the campaign. So keep your park operating and profitable as you increase your park's appeal. Raise dinosaurs and welcome guests. Prepare for when things inevitably go wrong. With an expanded arsenal including new security cameras and maintenance ATV teams to grapple with the threats posed by fierce weather, dinosaur escapes, and potential sabotage from rival factions. So that's a little bit of a tease as to what we can expect. But when you look at the main image, you have the main attraction, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, with its adorable little babies inspired by Junior from The Lost World. The thing I look at here is the adults, though. I'm curious as to whether there's actually much sexual dimorphism in between them, because in The Lost World there was fairly distinct characteristics that differentiated the Tyrannosaurs. So Buck, he had a distinct dewlap and a bit more heft to him and brighter colours. But that looks like to be somewhat what they're going for, but I can't tell if that male actually has a dewlap or not. I don't think he does. But he does have a different pattern. Now, I was thinking perhaps that the patterns, we have more different patterns for each dinosaur, but otherwise it could also be different patterns specific to the sex of the individual. So the females have a different pattern to the males, but they're fairly similar overall, and just will be brighter in colour when it comes to the males. But yeah, looks really nice, and you've got some good terrain blending there. Looks really cool, and you've got a couple of other buildings up on the plateaus around them. Now we have a couple of screenshots that we can look at now, including this one, which is a shot from the trailer showing us the return of the Pteranodon. In this case, actually, the male Jurassic World Pteranodon, which I don't think we actually ever saw in the films, as this one clearly has a much more pronounced head crest. Not quite as pronounced as the Jurassic Park Pteranodon, which looks to be what the infant here seems to be more inspired by. But the most important thing that you can notice is that these pteranodons are walking along the ground. Not the ones in the front, but the ones in the back there. So they are actively walking. At least when you watch the trailer, you'll see what I mean. But yeah, walking pterosaurs is a feature that we've been wanting for a very long time, and it's so great to see it in here. I'm really excited to see Quetzalcoatlus walk, because with pterosaurs on the ground, it opens up an avenue for all sorts of new behaviours to be showcased. So potentially you could see Quetzalcoatlus running down its prey. That would be really amazing to see. And it also looks like we have a bit of a flowing bit of water there. Somewhat like a little stream going down a slope. So the water system could be a lot more versatile than I was initially expecting. You can also see a bridge over in the background that the Pteranodon seems to be able to walk along. Whether we actually have bridges for guests to, bridge the gap between high places in your parks is to be seen. But all I can say is the aviaries are looking absolutely magnificent with all these different plants, as well as the enhanced terrain tools which allow you to create cliffs, and also clip rocks into the aviary barriers to create a much more natural landscape. It's also really cool to see some of the Japanese architecture being applied to these aviaries as well, so you can really spice up how they look. You can also see a few more aquatic plants over in the water there, so some lilies and some reeds as well. But a really cool screenshot. This screenshot though is very interesting, as it is set in the desert biome. And it looks like you have the lights of a city. There was mention of Las Vegas, so perhaps that is what that is indeed. But looking at this building set, it almost reminds me of Atlantis or just some kind of ancient Greek architecture. Like, you've got a lot of marble here. You've also got the confirmation of the return of the Megalodon. So Megalodon is coming back from Evolution 2, and honestly, I'm not surprised. It is an animal that we were asking for a very long time, and is an absolute legend among prehistoric predators. So it'd almost be a crime to exclude it. But you also have statues of the Jurassic Park pteranodons perched above and around the park here. You can also see some vending machines, the return of the benches. And a very important thing I've just noticed is that guests can actually sit at the tables that you place down. That is something that we needed in Evolution 2, so that's really cool to see. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that, but if they did, good on you, because I only just managed to pick it up. I was about to talk about something else, but just noticed that, so that is really cool. So yeah, it's feeling a lot more like Planet Zoo, really. But you can see we have some really cool looking scenery here. You got almost looks, I don't know what exactly it's called. I want to say Parthenon, but it's not quite a Parthenon. But basically these marble structures with a turquoise roof. Looks really nice. And you've got the T-Rex statue, which I believe is part of the pre-order, or at least the deluxe edition. Because I don't think pre-order comes with any special benefits this time, like it did with Evolution 2, although vehicle skins aren't really a bonus necessarily, but when it comes to the deluxe edition, it's certainly much more substantial this time, but we will get into that a little bit later. But yeah, look at those fountains, how high that water's going. You will be able to create some magnificent parks. I can just see it. Like, I remember the Gaming Beaver created an Atlantis park. Certainly be able to recreate it now with this. Really looks amazing. We also have, I think this is the last shot in the trailer, which gives us a wide overview of a Japanese park. So you can see our innovation center over there, as well as the paths, which look to have curbs added onto them. So that is actually something that I think some of the paths in Evolution 2 did have curbs, but yeah, I don't really recall them too well. But yeah, really nice to see the paths in here. Whether you can actually make them elevated or not is to be seen, because they haven't shown it in any of the screenshots. However, they could be not showing it on purpose, waiting for it to be a surprise or something like that, because though we got looks at the panels for different terrain customization, environmental customization, we didn't see what the path was. So potentially there is an elevation tool in there, but I don't want to get my hopes up. But if there is, it'd be fantastic. You can see a few of our amenities around here, sporting some unique shapes, although they seem to almost be copy and pasted. But like I was saying before, with a modular building, you'll have a shell of, you'll be able to create a shell. So you'll have a base building, but then be able to build around it and create a functioning facility, and save that as a blueprint and send it to the Frontier Workshop, which I imagine would just be the Steam Workshop, possibly, although being a whole Frontier Workshop would allow console players to work between. Although I'm pretty sure, actually no, Steam Workshop I don't think works for console players for Planet Zoo, so possibly is its own thing. But you can see our cherry blossoms sprouted up across this park. You can also see bamboo, as well as several different little scenery pieces. So you can see some deciduous trees, so maybe some oak trees, as well as some bamboo, fountain bamboo looks like, all across the place. You can see an aviary in the background, as well as a lagoon, but we'll get some better shots of the lagoons later on. We also see our monorail, which I don't know whether it has a new look or not. Those windows look particularly golden. So I don't know whether that's implying that you could possibly customize the monorail. It'd be really cool if you could, though. That would be really interesting. We also have, I think I actually showed this picture already. I put it in here twice, although I didn't really talk about some of the other new pathing. So yeah, we've got a little bit of new pathing in here. It looks really cool, this one, with this nice dark deep grey tile look. We also have some new fountains as well, showing up in Evolution 3. I need to get used to saying Evolution 3, as I've been saying Evolution 2 for the last few years. So Evolution 3, Evolution 3, Evolution 3. So there we go. But yeah, I did actually cover this image already. My apologies. Here we go. So here we see the Mediterranean theme on full display in an absolutely jaw-dropping landscape. Like, that is absolutely beautiful, with these rocks all around, especially that big old rock arch over there with those aviaries. If you can create that, that is going to be absolutely sensational, because I'm pretty sure you can create caves. And yeah, recreating scenes from the movies will not be so difficult anymore. So yeah, you've also got these steep cliffs, and if you look closely, you'll see the lagoon actually has a barrier similar to the aviaries, in that you can actually clip items through it and make a somewhat naturalistic barrier, which I think is just so brilliant, and potentially, fingers crossed, allows for dinosaurs to potentially come close to the lagoon, and Mosasaurus or Megalodon or any other large marine predator can potentially leap out, grab them. And potentially pterosaurs flying over the lagoon could become prey for the marine species. If they haven't added it, I will be disappointed. But if they have, yes, please. I really hope it's in it. You can also see a smaller lagoon over in the back that actually has a much steeper cliff going around the edge, but also a little island in the middle. Whether that's going to take place of the rock platform that the Archelon and Nothosaurus were using, I'm not sure, but if it does, it allows you to modify what that looks like a lot better. You can also see some new lagoon viewing stands, as well as the lagoon hatchery returning, but also several different beautiful looking buildings. So looks like you're going to get a whole Mediterranean set that you can be able to recreate here, with all sorts of different buildings. You also see some sun chairs and some sun shaders, but also this little pool over here, which I don't think guests can actually interact with, has a Mosasaurus mosaic at the bottom of it, so that's pretty cool. I'm really interested to see more from the terrain customization. It's really good to have like a lead up to an Evolution game again, as each time it has been exciting, and Evolution 3 is going to be no different, as seeing all this gets me really excited. Now let's talk about an interesting little thing here. So fans looking to expand their parks even further can purchase the Jurassic World Evolution 3 Deluxe Edition, featuring 4 additional spectacular prehistoric family units and entire species: Protoceratops, brilliant new addition; Guanlong, awesome; Thanatos Dracon and Concavenator, plus a collection of scenery items inspired by a Clark County campaign level and an exclusive Las Vegas ATV skin. Well, that gives you a hint that Las Vegas probably is going to show up at some point in this campaign. But I would like to point out Concavenator and Thanatos Dracon. So those two species came a little bit later in Evolution 2. So Concavenator was part of the Cretaceous Predator pack, and Thanatos Dracon was part of our very last pack, the Park Manager's Collection pack. Protoceratops and Guanlong are completely new though, but I know a lot of people have been opposed to the reselling of prior species, and I totally agree with you. I don't think we should have to pay for another species again, but it's somewhat different to Huayangosaurus being part of the Deluxe Edition in Evolution 2. These are DLC animals that, depending on who you were, you didn't get the Cretaceous Predator pack and you didn't get the Park Manager's Collection pack. You do get the opportunity to get those dinosaurs again. Granted, they could be part of the base game, but given they're DLC animals, I feel like it can be pushed a little bit. So it's not as devastating as a base game animal being part of a DLC. And having to pay for it again. DLC animals are optional, so you had the option to pay for them last time. If you already paid for them, like I did, you do have to pay for them again. But honestly, it's in a fairly worthwhile pack, as this is a lot more substantial than the last 2 Deluxe Edition packs for the Evolution series. So you don't just get four animals, I should say. Thanatos Dracon is not a dinosaur. But you also get 3 ATV skins, Clark County scenery items, of which there are 53, including the T-Rex skeleton and the Atlantis Park scenery, it looks like, judging by the fountain, as well as a Lux Mosasaurus skin, which is pretty cool. I wonder how many other dinosaurs and other species are going to have the Lux gene able to be added to them. Oh, pre-order does actually come with specific stuff. So a Badlands ATV skin, Badlands scenery blueprints, and Badlands scenery items. So, okay, I guess pre-ordering is kind of necessary if you want to get those items, although it depends. Do you want to create a specific scene with those items? So, like, it is optional. Now we do have Concavenator here with this little baby with his big old eyes. Concavenator is easily one of the best designed carnivores we've ever seen in the Evolution series, and certainly makes it somewhat a worthwhile DLC creature in the end, and a Deluxe Edition. If you love Concavenator, as it has gained popularity over the last few years, I would say you should get this pack. But if you're still opposed to the idea of paying for an animal again, you don't have to, of course. But yeah, you can also see a little bit of the sexual dimorphism going on between the male and the female. So the male looks like to be the one in the back there with a much more pronounced hump, with the female having it much smaller. And the male also has longer quills, but also a slightly different skull shape. Sort of looking closer to a Giganotosaurus. But yeah, Concavenator is a really cool animal, and yeah, it's good to see it coming back. It's good to know Concavenator has returned. We do also have Thanatos Dracon, which Admittedly, it was a controversial addition at first, but you grew to love it, as it was a fairly accurate looking Asdarkid. Probably the most accurate Asdarkid we had in the game, as it did have all the features that make an Asdarkid an Asdarkid. Pterosaur, that is. So you see the male and the female here. So the female is the Thanatos Dracon we became familiar with in the previous game, with a much larger head. And the male looks to have a more pronounced head crest, brighter colours, and a somewhat more elongated, sharper looking beak. But of course you have the little baby in the middle here, looking absolutely adorable with his big wings. So it'll be interesting to see the baby pterosaurs fly. Because I'm pretty sure they would be capable of it. They'd just be little guys flapping about. We also have our new dinosaurs, the Protoceratops being our first. Certainly an animal I've been wanting in Jurassic World Evolution, the whole series, for a very long time, as it is one of the most famous dinosaurs from all of Asia, being particularly famous for the fighting dinosaurs fossil. Where a Protoceratops and a Velociraptor were preserved mid-combat. At least that is what is theorized. You can also see the baby here looking up. So he's either noticed something or is just looking up at up at the sky. He could be. But the colors look really nice on these guys, and I'm really happy to see that they also have quills, which is a design feature that has been used prevalently in Protoceratops over the years. You can also see the well-developed beak that Protoceratops possesses, and no horn, as Protoceratops did not have one. I'm trying to determine which one is the male and which one is the female. I feel like the one closest to the baby is going to be the female, and the one drinking currently is the male. Because, yeah, it is a little bit more colourful, and the female looks to already have a pattern. So that could be the case there. And our second, and possibly my favourite new species, is Guanlong, a tyrannosauriform from the Jurassic period, so ancestors of tyrannosaurs, similar to that of Proceratosaurus and Morus intrepidus and Eutyrannus. So this guy is heavily feathered, with some really beautiful colours on both the feathers and the head crest of the male, which is roaring ferociously. So this is probably the third dinosaur that has a single crest. So we've had Proceratosaurus, Monolophosaurus, and now Guanlong. But I think Guanlong stands out most just because of the feathering and the bright colours. So it's a real standout addition in that regard. You can also see the female having less colour, but certainly is still striking. And you also have the little baby with his big old blue eyes, looking up at his roaring father. We also get a close look at that new Mosasaurus Lux, with some really nice colours in here. And I think we can also identify the male Mosasaurus here, as the female has a fairly level back, whereas this guy looks to have a distinct ridge over the shoulders. So that is potentially our look at the male Mosasaurus, so that's going to be really cool to see. The fins almost look to be the same size as well as one another, the back flippers particularly compared to the front. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm also really excited to see the Rebirth content, because this does come out after Rebirth on October 21st, I want to say. Rebirth would have been out for ages by that point, so I have a feeling we will get, fingers crossed, Rebirth content at base game. So Rebirth Mosasaurus variant, Titanosaurus, Rebirth Spinos, Distortus Rex, you name it. If it's in Rebirth, hopefully it's in the base game, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a DLC afterwards, potentially the month after. Here we have a close look at some of the Badlands scenery items, which, if you're a hardcore Jurassic fan, you will recognize a lot of these, including the specialized machine that they use to disturb the ground to get the scan of the Velociraptor Anteropus skeleton in Jurassic Park. Of course, for those who don't know, it's a mix of Velociraptor and Deinonychus that created the Jurassic Park Velociraptors. You can also see some interesting benches, some air conditioning, and all sorts of stuff here. You get the computer that actually shows the scan as well. So if you wanted to do a full start to finish recreation of Jurassic Park, I feel like you'd be able to accomplish it here. So this is set in the Badlands of Montana, as that is where that scene was. So it seems like we will be returning to that location in the campaign. Moving on to a couple of trailer shots. So this confirms the return of a few species, Parasaurolophus being one of them. I'm kind of interested to see what dimorphism will be between the males and females of the Parasaurolophuses. You can also see the Gallimimus as well as the Brachiosaurus. That is another dinosaur I'm very interested to see the sexual dimorphism for, is Brachiosaurus. Sauropods in general I'm interested, because it would be so great if one of them was to take a note out of Prehistoric Planet's book and have like inflatable air sacs. Like if the male Dreadnoughtus was like the ones in Prehistoric Planet, that would be amazing. We also get a shot of our Mosasaurus mother with her little babies, looking absolutely adorable here. I would think that a mother Mosasaurus would only have one calf, but if it has two, it has two. So they wouldn't actually be laying eggs. So mosasaurs would have actually given birth to live young. So I'm curious as to how the nest system is going to work, as they can't lay eggs. So possibly just will spawn in next to the mother and then swim about. That's what I'm thinking. Also looks like the nostrils have been moved on the Mosasaurus, as I think they were previously close to the front. Unless that's just a ridge. It could just be a ridge. And I'm just seeing things, but it almost looks like sort of a blowhole up on the top of the snout there. Could be, as the rebirth Mosasaurus does actually possess that feature. We also get a shot of a Geosternbergia approaching one of its babies. So it isn't just film species that will be getting babies, it is all species that, well, at least most of the species. So I'm interested to see the sexual dimorphism in Geosternbergia, as it did already start out having that massive crest. Whether the females will have a reduced crest or not, I can't really make it out in the Geosternbergias that are flying around, but you can see you have full customization of the buildings that you connect onto the side of the aviaries. So that aviary viewing gallery, all Mediterranean pieces there. But the baby Geosternbergia is cute. It actually could have a little bit of fuzz on it. It doesn't look completely skinny like the Geosternbergia adult that you can see here. So potentially some of the young pterosaurs may have a little bit of pycnofiber, but I'm not sure. But it looks really cool here, and you can see some really cool rocks over on the side there. It's going to be really cool customizing your parks with all these new terrain tools. We also get a close-up shot of our little baby Triceratops, which, as I stated earlier, does look to be a bit of a blend of a baby Jurassic Park trike and baby Jurassic World trike. But it looks really cute nonetheless, amongst all these different coloured trees, with his mother looking at it from the side. And some people did make note that the babies also have a consistent pattern and will develop into the adult pattern when they come of age. So it's sort of similar to how Prehistoric Kingdom has done their little babies, as they have a default pattern, and then depending on the skin it will just change to that pattern, but they all start off having the same pattern. I don't believe it's ontogeny in this game, so it's not going to be seamless, so they will probably go to a corner of their habitat, transform into an adult, and then return to the herd. We do also get a look at the baby Stegosaurus, which is close to the Lost World Stego, but not one-to-one, but certainly looks a bit closer to our current understanding of a baby Stegosaurus, but of course with the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World aesthetic. You can also see some of the water lilies over in the water to the side of them, but yeah, this little animation that they played was really cute. We also get to see Baryonyx escaping, with the little ones leading the charge, running down the hill towards the park there. Oh, look at that! I just noticed something. So in the middle there, you've got a fountain, but it's actually got a massive mosasaurus statue in the middle of it. You've also got a few different art shapes, which, looking at them now, also confirm the return of a couple of other species. So the one you can see on the left there, that art shape, that makes Dunkleosteus. So Dunkleosteus is returning, which is pretty cool. Baryonyx are so eager to see it. But the other ones I can't quite make out in this frame. But yeah, it's looking really nice. And it looks like we also have a fairly modern theme, judging by the buildings that you can see up on the plateau there. So looks to... we're going to have all sorts of building pieces to work with. I also picked up on the fact that we also have the king fern from Planet Zoo being brought in here. It was added in the Oceania pack. So it's great to see some of the plants from Planet Zoo being brought over into Evolution 3 to really expand the floral diversity. We also get a shot of a baby velociraptor with no particular skin or pattern, although it actually kind of does have one. You also see the adults here not looking to have changed too much, walking away from their oasis, but the baby velociraptor has the sounds of Beta and certainly looks a lot like Beta from Jurassic World Dominion. So yeah, you're going to be really able to recreate that movie. And not the best screenshot, but we do get a shot of the baby Carnotaurus looking absolutely adorable, and the adult Carnotaurus coming in to help it break down the fence. So this also shows the return of the default fences that you were working with in Evolution 2. So they had sort of the red marked as sort of where the animals generally tend to strike, and they seem to be hitting this fence. But I am curious as to whether with cable fences, big carnivores will be able to just simply rip them down, rather than just have to smash into them. Like, we're only seeing iron bars here, which in this case, a headbutting mechanic for dinosaurs is much more realistic rather than ripping them down. But yeah, I'm interested to see with cable fences. We also do get a little interaction with the Allosaurus baby. Not actually showing the default evolution Allosaurus, but in fact the canonical Allosaurus. So our battle at Big Rock. Allosaur here having a lovely little interaction with his youngster. I do wonder whether this is the female, because as many know, the Battle of Big Rock Allosaurus is a female, so I'm very excited to see what the male Allosaurus could potentially look like. We get a shot of Junior, the T-Rex from the Lost World, looking absolutely adorable with those big old eyes and little puppy snouts. Having a little bit of an interaction with its sibling. So it's going to be really cool seeing these little baby T-Rexes. And no, they're not paleontologically accurate, but that's what Prehistoric Kingdom's for. Although I wonder what baby feathered T-Rexes would look like. Potentially you could add the feathers to them. That would be interesting. We do also get another shot here of the T-Rex family roaring and looking over their domain of the Japanese park. You can see a lot of buildings, but nothing that I can really see that is new at this point in the video. So I think we'll just move on. Here we go. So here we see the panel for the environment terrain tool. So here you can see how you're able to create canyons, and yeah, so basically you got a radius, which we're all used to, an intensity, which is what we're all used to, but also fall off, which I imagine is how steep of a cliff are you making, which is an interesting idea to bring in for making cliffs, and certainly appropriate. And you also have slope. Slope being at the max would probably also attribute to the steepness of the slope. So you can also have the fall. I think fall off actually refers to rocks potentially. So slope refers to how steep it is, and the fall off is basically how many rocks you're going to have. And judging by the environment around it, you're going to have some real creative freedom with that. I'm just looking at some of the exhibits off in the back to see if I can identify any creatures. It looks like there's a raptor-esque dinosaur in one of those paddocks, but the other ones I cannot be 100% sure on. We also have our shot of the introduction of waterfalls, which is certainly a feature I've been wanting to see in Evolution for a good long while. It's great to see that we're finally getting waterfalls, and that they're fairly flexible and versatile in how you can create them. So basically you put a pool of water at the top, and the water will simply just flow down into another body of water, and I assume you have to have a body of water already there for it to actually work. But that's not the only thing we get. We also have the confirmation of Spinosaurus's return, although at this point I feel like any species we have seen in the franchise before is almost guaranteed, except for Smilodon. Smilodon we are not sure, as they have not mentioned anything about Cenozoic species, so potentially there's a DLC down the line. But yeah, it's really cool to see that we're getting statues for a majority of the dinosaur species. And other species as well, as you have statues of Megalodon, Pteranodon, Mosasaurus, so all sorts of creatures. And you can see on this toolbar, you can see shallow water, but then also deep water next to it, and of course removing water. And you have slope, intensity, and radius. So that's going to be really cool to have a look at in game. We also have our terrain brush, so painting in preset environments, it looks like. So each biome will come with its own little set of different brushes that you can apply, so different plant varieties. You can also see a bronze statue, a few statues of the Ankylosaurus, but also Stegosaurus over in the back. And another bit of art there that from this angle you really cannot make out what it is, but yeah, you can see a lot more of the Mediterranean theme as well. Wetland only looks to have 3 tabs, so I feel like that's going to be our water lilies, our duckweed, and our reeds. And another shot from the trailer showing off Gallimimus statues, as well as the Spinosaurus over there with the waterfall falling behind it. You also see Brachiosaurus statues and a small fence, which is a really cool feature that I'm really looking forward to using. Small fences is certainly something that I know a lot of people have been wanting, because we do have a lot of small dinosaurs, and yeah, the large fences that we have right now seem to be a bit of overkill. And we also get our look at how the nesting system is going to work. So different dinosaurs will have different preferences. Unfortunately, I didn't pause it on the exact shot on where their nest is going to be. And nests will also take different appearances. So in this case, this Triceratops nest is a mound with a bit of foliage around it, almost a bit like a den in a way. And the tab came up as isolated, so that's the preferred appearance for the nest. It also looks like we've got some interesting new terrain brushes, as this doesn't quite look like water, it almost looks like mud. So I'm interested whether we're actually going to be able to have mud baths for our dinosaurs. That'd be really nice. You also get a shot of the male Triceratops, which we'll get a little bit of a look at later. And by later, I mean next slide. So this shows off some of the customization that you're going to be able to have in your hatcheries. So you, of course, are able to switch between male and female. So this is the male with a much more substantial crest, bolder patterning, and different horns to the females. So it's kind of interesting having the female Triceratops almost looking like they could be male Triceratops. So you have to go a bit more overboard with some of the dimorphism. So in this case, an absolutely massive frill. I saw some people mentioning how it almost reminds them of the Ice Age 3 Triceratops with their massive heads. And honestly, I can't unsee it now. But in the bottom left, you can also see you have some bulk action. So I imagine you've got like all female, all male, and then a random of the sexes that you'll be able to incubate at any one time. And you can also see population of the exact species that you're working with. So in this case, they have currently got 7 female trikes, but no males until you incubate this one. Now this shot at first doesn't show much that's new, other than a couple of reeds, but also up in the sky you can see the new transport team, which we're no longer having dinosaurs strung from harnesses below massive helicopters. Now they're carried in a crate, which is honestly a much better and more humane alternative to what we had before, and honestly paves the way for some potentially really cool new release animations. So they will lower the crate, and I imagine the dinosaur will just simply walk out, but they could get creative. Some animals might smash their way out, or run out, or take their time and very slowly come out. So that'll be interesting. We also get a look at a very stormy park with a Brachiosaurus enclosure in the foreground. You can see the return of the log viewing gallery as well as the Jurassic World Innovation Center. And also, I just noticed this, way off in the distance, over on the left, you can see a very cool cascading waterfall, which is going to be really cool to see. There's also a shape in the lagoon over there. Can't tell if it's a breaching ichthyosaur or just some other marine reptile interacting with the surface, but it actually possibly could be a breaching ichthyosaur, as that would be a really cool little feature to have in, as reptiles are able to breach from the water. You can also see a nest for the Brachiosauruses over there, which is massive too. Like, Brachiosaurus can actually fit in there somewhat. You can also see some of the water lilies and the return of a bit more of the paleoflora, so the tall nut that I know the Brachiosaurus certainly preferred. So this looks to be a more tropical map, as the rocks certainly harken back to the tropical kind, and a few of the plants as well. So this very possibly could be in Hawaii, which when I first read that Hawaii was actually going to be part of the campaign, I immediately just thought, so we're just going back to Isla Nublar, because for those who don't know, Jurassic Park and Jurassic World were filmed in Hawaii. We also get a shot here of this maintenance vehicle. So the maintenance team is a new team being added in here, riding through, looks to be a storm that's just clearing up, but riding a little bit too fast and bangs into one of these fences here. But you can see another arch shape here, which looks to make a pterosaur. So that looks to be potentially Pteranodon, though it could also be Quetzalcoatlus, not sure. And the other one over on the right, it looks both like the Dunkleosteus, but also like potentially a predatory dinosaur. But those are some interesting art shapes and decorations that I'm sure took a lot of thought into creating. So I'm really interested to see how those are going to look. And then the final shot of the trailer involves this T-Rex, very fed up with his maintenance team, basically flinging him off a cliff, doing the this is Sparta to this maintenance vehicle. And yeah, we do not know how deep this canyon goes, so this vehicle could possibly get to the bottom and blow up, which, poor guy, really didn't deserve that kind of fate, especially from a T-Rex that probably could have done anything but that. But yeah, it's going to really lead into some very interesting animations and interactions between the dinosaurs and the aspects of our park and each other. I'm really interested to see the fighting system, how much that has changed, if it has changed at all. I really hope it has and become more random, but we'll have to wait and see. But that is all that I have to share. Almost an hour long, this video. I know a lot of people got through this a lot quicker than I did, but I thought, why not? We'll just sit here, go through every image and talk about things in as much detail as I wanted to. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on Jurassic World Evolution 3. Are you excited for it? Are you not that excited for it? Will you stick with Evolution 2 and not buy this one? Or are you 100% getting Jurassic World Evolution 3 because it looks like the ultimate Jurassic World Evolution title? I'm certainly on the latter because it has impressed me so far, with a lot of features actually warranting its existence. Like, not a lot of these things could have just been update features, as a lot of people have said. So I am very curious to see what else is in store. So October 21st is when Jurassic World Evolution 3 will drop. Put it on your Steam wishlist if you are interested in getting this game, as I certainly am. And also, I cover the game on YouTube, so I kind of have an obligation. But yeah, it's looking really good. Like, when I first watched the trailer, it was hype. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.